Hi everyone, it's me. I wanted to make a video about the details regarding my estrangement. I don't know if I really ever went into it too much, although it's been so many years. I'm just gonna go back to it and explain it and release it so other people can either be prepared or know what might happen. Because my estrangement was twofold, because I have two daughters and each one happened slightly different. I remember when I had my children about 18 months apart, and my oldest daughter, even at the age of, I don't know, she was 8 or 9 years old. Sorry, I'm going to readjust my camera a little bit. She would say, Mom, if you want to go to the store, you go. I'm fine, being here by myself. And it was for a short amount of time if I wanted to run down to Walgreens for something. And so I would, and she liked having her space. And she said from very young on, when I get a chance to move out, I'm going to move out. And I'd say, oh, don't ever leave me. And she'd say, I won't leave you. And so I think she was always just A-okay by herself. And she always felt secure, I guess, so to speak. And so she graduated from high school, and we were having normal 18-year-old stuff going on. I had two cars. She always used the second one, and I accidentally pulled. I had a second car. The main car that I drove had an oil leak, so someone said to me, use Durox. So I poured this Durox into the engine compartment, and it seized. Little did I know you were supposed to flush it through the radiator to seal up things. And so oh my gosh, that was the worst. So the car seized up. I had to leave it, and then I went home, and she had my second car. So I said, I need my other car because I have to get to work. And she says, well, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. You're going to have to call your biological father or your dad to see if they can help, because I'd always let her use a second car. And so she was able to get to and from. I think she was going to school, and shortly after that, I don't know how long after that, but I came home from work one day and I saw her laptop was gone. Her laptop was always on the couch, and we kind of all used it. We had a desktop and a laptop, and I walked in her room, and her room was stripped. It was empty. All that was in her room was a bed, a dresser, and hangers, and other miscellaneous stuff laying on the floor. And I was like, oh, she actually moved out. I didn't even know, because I worked every day, and her schedule varied, and I thought, holy cow. So I called my youngest and I said, your sister, she moved out. And she acted surprised, and I said, did you know anything about it? And she said no. And then she came home and she admitted she had helped her move out. And I sat in her room and cried and closed the door, and after a while I cleaned it up. And then the youngest one, I was dating someone who was actually much younger than myself. I had met him. We started hanging out and dating, and he would spend the night at my house and this and that. And youngest, he was polite, he was nice, and we were friends. And we hung out together. We all went out, my friends, his friends, etc. And we just had a really good friendship. And also we were seeing one another, and he'd spend the night. And my youngest, I go in the bedroom and I'd shut and lock my door, obviously for privacy as an adult, as anyone would. And I remember him and I were intimate, and my daughter, youngest, was on the phone. She was walking down the hallway, and she knocked on my door, and it wasn't completely shut, and the door opened. And unfortunately, she saw something that she saw what was going on, and she closed the door, and she's screaming in the phone. She's like, Steffi, Mom's in there with so-and-so, and I just saw them, this and that. And he had left, and I walked out into the living room, and I said, him and I are dating. This is a normal thing for two people who care about each other and have feelings for each other. And after that, it went downhill, and my house became a war zone. and she would use, this is back then, MySpace, to degrade me, talk about me, just really derogatory things. And it was just walking on eggshells every single day. It was the disrespect. And so I realized we could not live cohesively together. And I said, I'm going to need you to go stay with your dad because this isn't working. This is not healthy for either of us. And she gave me the ultimatum, if you don't stop seeing him, I'm going to leave. And I said, well, I'm not going to, because he's of no harm to anyone. And children don't make rules in my home. And so soon after, I said, you have by the end of the month. So it was in September. It was before her next birthday. And I said, take anything you want. I kept we had a big, huge CD or DVD collection. I said, take all the DVDs, take all the furniture, take this, take that, take anything you want. And she did. I saved a handful of DVDs, my favorite ones that she didn't care about, but she took everything else. And she did. And I said, take everything you want. Anything you want. It's anything you need to make your life comfortable over at your dad's house. And she did. And I was still trying to communicate with her, but she wasn't responding. I was paying, I had been paying for all the bills in the house, including her cell phone bill and this and that. And she wasn't responding. And so slowly but surely, I started to disconnect anything I was paying for, the cell phone bill, this and that. I said, you're going to have to get your own car insurance. You're going to, or whatever. She didn't have a car at that time, but I said, make sure, you start taking care of your own financial responsibilities. And then it was her birthday, October 14th. And I said, I really want to spend time with you. And she wasn't responding. And so through the grapevine, one of her high school friends that would come over all the time, he said, well, do you know your daughter's in California? I said, no, I had no idea. And come to find out, she did move in with her dad. And I don't know if her sister my oldest daughter was living there too. Come to find out, he took them to California, and she decided to stay there and live with my sister and become kind of her nanny and help her with her son. And it became an arrangement for them. And nobody told me. It was a big, huge secret. So what I did, because I knew, I messaged my youngest sister and I said, oh, tell so-and-so, my youngest daughter, I have concert tickets for her to go to the rave. And my youngest sister called and she said, I need you to come over. I need to talk to you. And I said, about what? And she said, well, just come on over. And I already knew what was going on. So I go over, she goes, oh, your youngest daughter's in California with our other sister. And I said, oh, well, why didn't anyone tell me? So I kind of played it off, and she was crying and she felt so bad. And I said, well, I already know. And I wish someone would have told me. But anyways, that happened. She was in California for a year and then came back and stayed with my mom. I found out, I went over and she saw me standing in the house and she left and took off and went to live with a friend. And not soon after that, it was a couple years, my oldest daughter, I was living with my mom at the time because I had lost my job and then I was, lost the house. It was, I was in transition and thought it would be a good idea. And my youngest daughter says, I want to come and see you. Okay, fine. So she comes to see me and we sit down. I give her a hug and we sit down and I said, well, why did you leave? She says, well, you used to yell at us. And I said, well, what do you mean I used to yell at you? She goes, yeah, we were afraid of you. I said, I yelled only when it was necessary, as you would if a child's going to touch a flame or a fire. You yell to get them to stop. And so, yeah, I yelled. And so she said they had been afraid of me. And I said, well, I'm sorry I yelled. You guys ended up being, getting through high school unscathed, no drugs, alcohol, sex, you had friends over and this and that. And I thought we had a pretty decent home life. And she shared more information with me about, and then she said, when she came back and we were together, she said, don't tell anyone I'm talking to you. And I said, okay, I don't know why. She goes, Dad and my other daughter don't want me talking with you, so just don't tell anyone. because they'll be really mad at me. And I said, okay. So she came back. She was back for a while, I think a year or two. And we had a couple of apartments together. I helped her buy a car. We had a disagreement, and she took off again in the middle of a lease and with the vehicle I had bought her. So she was out there in the world leaving me holding the bag. So I just want to say that I did my best. I was not perfect. I am a human being. Did I date after I got divorced? Yes. Did I have sex after I got divorced? Yes. It just seems like when a woman is dating and is having sex, it's really bad. Like, it's really bad because moms are held to a different standard. And when dads are out there doing their thing, it's a-okay. And maybe it's because sometimes women have primary custody and then their ex comes every other weekend. So their ex has a lot of free time to do whatever they want. And if you don't want to date and you don't want to have sex and, whatever, but I think for me, because I had been in a really, really bad marriage for so long, I was hoping to show my children that two adults could have a healthy, loving relationship. And for the first time ever, they could see something positive. Because the guy I had been dating, he was much younger, but he ended up being a good friend of mine, and I really loved him as a person. And so we were friends for a long time. 10 years we were friends. We'd message back and forth and keep in touch, and it was really much more than anything physical. It really was beneficial for both of us. So I just want to say I'm not ashamed. This is my estrangement. I always delete comments unless they're productive because I don't need to be attacked. But I just want to share it. I hope this helps someone else. You shouldn't stop living just because you get divorced and you have children. I think it's important for your children to see healthy, loving relationships, whether it's just you have a friend. Healthy, loving relationships between two consenting adults where they benefit from seeing that mirrored instead of seeing the previous relationship, which was toxic and, very abusive. And that's not a good place for a child to be. So even if you are married and you're allowed to have sex under a certain rule and in the context of a marital relationship, doesn't mean you're in a healthier spot than someone who's single and dating and with someone who enhances their life and who is not abusing them. So I hope this helps someone. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm not ashamed. It's been a long time. So I hope everyone has a good day, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.